Who's there? It's the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Development Biweekly Call, and it's live with the community. It is March 16th, and I am David Warner, your host with Microsoft. Looking forward to a fantastic call today with everyone. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a look at our agenda. We're going to have the latest updates on the community. We're going to get some updates on PnP .NET libraries with Bert and PowerShell. We're going to talk about the latest on yoteams, Microsoft Teams Toolkit, Graph Toolkit, independent publisher connectors, all of the projects. We're so excited. Then we're going to see the latest on script samples, Microsoft Teams samples, Power Platform samples, all the samples everywhere. We got them. You want them. We know it. Then we're going to have everybody's favorite time, picture time. Then we're going to get in with our amazing community presenters of the day. Matt Jimison is going to cover harnessing the power of OpenAI inside Power Virtual Agents. And our very own Hugo Bernier is going to show us how to edit site headers in Power Pages. So let's get to it. There are a number of ways in which you can interact and host with the community. The first is the Power Platform community videos. We absolutely want you to be able to see all the amazing things that are being done in the community by way of that picture, movie picture thing, right, that we all love. And so you can do that. Check it out at ak.ms/community/videos. There's a number of YouTube channels that you can subscribe to. Did I say subscribe? Absolutely. You want to subscribe because you're going to get updated and alerted when all the new images are there for you. Then we've got LinkedIn group for discussions. You can join that, by the way. It's a group, and you'll be able to keep up to date as well. We've got a number of open source initiatives, PnP, Office Dev, SharePoint, Microsoft Graph. And did I mention samples? I think I did, but let's talk about it again. Team samples, SPFX samples, extensions, Power Platform samples, list formatting. There are so many of them available to you. And you have to remember all of these links. No, I'm just kidding. You only need to remember one. ak.ms/community/home will give you access to all of these resources that you are going to want to take and use because it's going to make your life easier in our lovely Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community. So absolutely get involved and take advantage of these. How are some ways that you can get involved? Well, one of them is just by doing what you're doing now. You're on a community call, but this is not the only community call that we have for you. We've got a Microsoft speakers only community call. This covers Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. And so it's on Tuesdays, and we'll see up in a moment who our speakers next week are. But this is an exclusive Microsoft speakers only. So we absolutely want you to join this because you're going to get the what's now, what's new, what's next. Folks from Microsoft are always kind of sharing top of mind things that are coming out, and it's very, very valuable for you. We've also got our Power Platform monthly call that just happened yesterday. So you can watch the video on that, but we will have another one next month. We've got the identity platform, Office add-ins, and then, of course, the bi-weekly sibling calls, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community, which you are on now. And we also have the Viva Connections and SharePoint framework. So you can download and get any and all of these invites. Where? ak.ms/community/calls. We'll give you access to all those. You could also check out the meetup for these at ak.ms/community/meetup. Now, these are your community calls. We're just here to facilitate. So we want you to know that you are invited to present. You can present a technical demo, a pattern, how you engaged with your senior leadership to get empowerment and buy-in. We absolutely want to see what it is that you're doing with the community and how you're doing it and how you're doing it within the technology that we all love. So you're welcome to provide a request to demo, and we'll make it easy on you. We've got a form, ak.ms/community/request/demo. We like our slashes, everybody, but not in a bad way, in a good way. It's all love. So definitely go fill out that form, and we would love to get you presented. Okay, talking about that Microsoft 365 and Power Platform Microsoft speakers only call coming up next week. We've got Thomas that's going to be talking about the additional Azure Communications Services features for your solutions. We've got Gary Pretty coming in to talk about some Power Virtual Agents, the latest features and capabilities. Don't want to miss that. It's going to be exciting. And of course, we got Gary Trender coming back, the Gary with 2 R's, Teams Toolkit Learn Path. This has been a consistent session for us, and so we're excited to see what he's got in store for us on deploying a Microsoft Teams app to Azure using Teams Toolkit for Visual Studio Code. So super, super excited for that. Definitely check that out. You can get there, the invite at ak.ms/community/ms-speakers-call-invite. Rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? All right. Let's talk a little bit about how you can get involved in the community. And for that, we're going to invite Hugo Bernier.
Hi, that's me. So you can actually help contribute to the community by attending one of our Sharing is Caring sessions. And the Sharing is Caring sessions is, if you've ever wondered, well, I'd really love to contribute a sample. I'd really love to help with documentation, or do anything like that. But I am afraid of GitHub. GitHub is very scary with forks and pull requests and merges and blames and all sorts of scary terms. So how do I get started? And am I going to mess up the environment? Am I going to mess up the repository and destroy everything? No, you don't have to worry about it. And just to make sure that you don't have to worry about it and you're not scared, we will walk you through the exercise. So together, we're going to do a hands-on session where you'll do your first GitHub pull request, either on the Microsoft documentation or some sample repositories, or writing for the web. And we'll do it together. We won't record it, so you don't have to worry about embarrassing yourself. In fact, I'll be there, so you don't have to worry about embarrassing yourself. I'll be embarrassing myself for you. And it's just fun. And again, if anybody has attended the Sharing is Caring session, I encourage you to post it in the chat and let other people know how much you enjoyed the session. And so you can go to aka.ms/sharing-is-caring to sign up for new sessions. And we've got some new sessions scheduled in April. Now, once you have contributed to the community, again, if you've created some cool connectors, you've created some cool samples, you've updated documentation, or even if you've presented on one of these calls, you can actually register to get a recognition badge. And the badges are handled by Credly, the same people who do the certification badges at Microsoft. And you can actually show them, again, on your profile, on your LinkedIn profile, on your resume, on your website, and show people that you know your stuff and you are contributing to the community. All you need to do is to sign up at aka.ms/community/recognition. You'll give us your email address and your GitHub handle, and we will take care of pulling your contributions from GitHub, and we'll send you a badge automatically. And there's no cost to you. And with that, let's pass it back to my friend David.
Awesome. Thank you, Hugo. And yes, definitely get signed up for those badges. More are going to be coming out this weekend. So if you haven't signed up, do it today, definitely. All right, now let's get into some project-specific updates. And for that, we'll invite on Bert.
Hello, everyone. For the PnP .NET world, our two libraries, what happened? We actually had a quite busy 2 weeks. Lots of things happened. For PnP framework, Roberto added support for when you use the provisioning engine to provision like a library with folders, you can now also provision multiple default values for a particular folder in that engine. So that's really flexible and powerful. Koen did work on the mail utility, some memory leaks and some odd improvements there, and support for identity domains in the search extensions. Gotham has been working on supporting different Azure environments, which is something we're kind of doing all up. Like we're doing a lot of work to support different clouds, different Azure environments, and make all the settings kind of flow nicely between ChorusDK framework and PowerShell. So Gotham did that. We also did for all the libraries, framework, core, SDK, and PowerShell, we're doing package dependency updates. So we're bumping some package versions to newer things. So that our list was quite old, so we've been kind of cleaning up that, mainly to ensure that also PnP PowerShell works nicely in, for example, the Cloud Shell, in Azure Cloud Shell. So let's see, core SDK side, Martin has been doing like several updates around the app principles, and now we added the final part. This about listing, adding, and revoking permission grants. Patrick Lambert did work on the enabling the everyone except external users claim. So there's a special claim, like if you want to ensure that user in your site, depending on the tenant, you have to do some tricks, and he did work there to make that happen. Jake helped us with enabling provisioning of private and shared team channels. And finally, we did a lot of work actually around detection of add-ins and Azure ACS principles. So if you have SharePoint add-ins in your tenant or using Azure ACS, up until today, it was really hard to figure out like where is it being used. Now we have new APIs which are wrapped in ChorusDK, which will also end up in PowerShell, by the way. So you will have an easy way to figure out like where is an add-in used, which add-ins are used, which ACS principles are used, which permissions do they have, and so on. Let's move to PowerShell. Gotham isn't here today, so I'm covering this slide as well. I think the key thing for PowerShell that I want to spell out is the usage, meaning it's February is like a shorter month. but still, PowerShell grew a lot from the tenant perspective. So more than 37,000 tenants in February. So that's amazing. Then the team did a lot of work already previously on supporting PowerShell 7.2. So the PowerShell binaries are .NET 6.0 now, and recommend everyone to use those. And then there's a set of various commandlet updates, which I'm not going to kind of drill to all of them. So go check the site. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Bert. Next is Yo Teams with Rick.
Hey, yeah, don't mute. It's always the case. Unmute, where's my unmute button? So, Yo Teams, yeah, what's new? We have a new release, of course. A new generator was a release, and I also did a new preview release today, the yoteams-deploy, the 1.4.1. So that's not even on the slide yet because I just did it. We also added support for the latest manifests, which need a little bit more description as well because there's not enough documentation on the latest manifests. We fixed some minor things, of course, in the generator and the docs. We also updated some packages and some dependencies. Our build events are quite normal, so that's okay. Still at 50,000 downloads, so that's okay. We still need a lot of help with some issues. So if you're a master at what's called gold tasks, then be sure to check out the Yo Teams build core because we have an issue in there and I cannot find it. So if anybody says, okay, I'm a gold master, then please help me out and check out the issues we have on the Teams generator. And yeah, that's it for me. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Rick. I love that Gulp Master. I think we might need a big gulp badge for that or something. I don't know. Hugo, we'll have to talk. Okay, let's move on to Microsoft Teams Toolkit with John Miller.
Thanks, David. A little update for this week is we have the pre-release in VS Code, which is an early preview for the next major version. That has a lot of new features I've been talking about for the past couple months. Something I'm calling composable automation, which really gives you the flexibility that everyone's been asking for. So that's our iteration on the feedback we've gotten there. We have some other improvements like automatic channel registration. So when you debug bot capabilities across Teams and Outlook, all that configuration can happen automatically for you. So you don't have to go into the bot framework portal or Azure or anything and do all that, which you previously had to do. And so we've fixed that. And we have some other quality of life improvements, including some support for React 18, and then maybe some other stuff. And then, of course, productivity and a rocket ship. So everybody wants that to be shipped. So we'd ship that as well. And just wanted to mention, thanks for your feedback for everyone who reached out. My last ping in here was we were doing a research study that's completed now. I think I want to thank everyone who was able to participate in that. And we took your feedback, and hopefully you'll start to see that now in this pre-release. So go and install that. You can also check it out in Visual Studio as well. In the 17.6 P1, I think, is available. So there's the same type of stuff is in Visual Studio for .NET developers as well. And if you want to chat or share feedback about dev tooling and Teams and anything like that, here's a link for you, TTK chat. And you can basically schedule some time with me. So I'm happy to chat whenever. I try and make time zones work. So reach out. Love to chat. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Rocket ship included with that chat. So definitely take him up on that. Awesome. All right. How about some MGT with Seb Levert?
Cool. So we just shipped a week ago our version 2.9.2, which is our latest table release. Included some interesting updates around scaling with the MGT person avatar that we had back then. That's a community contribution from Josh White. We also shipped our first official V3 preview release. We did a blog post last week on where we're at with our preview release. We're on track to ship another preview by the end of this month. This preview brings tons of feedback already, so we want to really thank the community for testing it out and trying to bring it inside your apps. Really looking forward to what you find and how you can leverage the toolkit in your app. So that's really exciting. What's next? We're continuing with our preview work. The majority of our work right now is on styling, dark mode, and all these kind of things. So our next preview will look even better than the one that we have right now. If you want to try it out, you just npm install Microsoft MGT at next, and you will be able to get all these new goodness from the Graph Toolkit. We're getting a lot of community requests, feedback, issues, so feel free to continue. We live because of your interest in the library, because of your contribution. So we have bugs. We want your feedback. If you want to bring your own PR, more than welcome to. If you just want to participate in the community, just come join our discussions. And if you want to work on your first issue, please feel free to go ahead. We're going to be able to have a full team that will help you succeed with your first PR to our repo. So back to you, David.
Did Seb just say even better than it is right now? Is that even possible? You just blew my mind. Woo! Bess is back too. Awesome. You just blew my mind, Seb Levert. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Let's go over to Independent Publisher Connectors with Jocelyn.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. What's new in the world of Independent Publisher Connectors? Across the entire connector ecosystem, not just Independent Publisher, we are now at 969 total connectors, which is 6 more than the last time we spoke. That is 236 for first party, 248 for independent publisher, and 485 for verified publisher across Power Apps, Power Automate, and Azure Logic apps. We have 2 new independent publishers, so now totaling 248. Thank you to Ashwin and Osazi. I also want to call out that if you cannot get enough of independent publisher connector content or connector content as a whole, please scan that QR code to join my monthly Power Platform Integrations Labs call. This is a session that I host once a month. It's 1 hour long where you get connector content right from me. You also get an educational session from another colleague of mine internally at Microsoft, as well as a demo from a community member that like yourself. Also, I called out a couple of weeks ago that we have a fantastic OpenAI independent publisher connector made by Robin, who I know is in here. Shout out to Robin. If you haven't caught it yet, we have a fantastic Low Code Revolution episode with April out on YouTube, so please check it out. My links will be in the chat, and please reach out to me with any questions. Thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Joss. All right, let's talk about some script samples. We have got so many updates here. Now, in the interest of time, we're not going to be able to cover them all, but thank you, everybody, for absolutely leaning in here. If you're wanting to contribute to the community, this is by far one of the easiest ways to do that, because the broad spectrum of scripts that you can provide here is so wide. It can be anything from a small script that's useful to something that's more complex. Paul Bullock, who can't be here today, is the repo owner here and is doing a fantastic job. He loves to be reached out to. Do not hesitate to reach out to him if you want to get more information on this. And you can learn more at ak.ms/script-samples, and you get badges. We got badges for everybody for that as well. All right, let's talk about some Microsoft Teams samples. Bob German could not be here today as well, but we've got a new one from our favorite Marcus Moeller, user profile display with Teams Toolkit and Microsoft Graph Toolkit. So it shows us how to use the MGT to access Graph with Teams Toolkit for VS 2022. Obviously, MGT, Teams SSO, and MGT, Teams MCell2 providers. So lots of better together stories there. Definitely check them out. Marcus, thank you for continuing to provide all those amazing samples, and definitely get involved there. There's badges for that too. Woo-hoo! Yes. Excellent. That's a long one. Yes. All right, let's go back to Hugo Bernier and talk about some Power Platform samples.
So we have a whole bunch of repositories available for you to contribute to Power Platform samples. So that's Power Apps, Power FX, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent, and hopefully Power Pages very, very soon. And so the new samples are one from Natty Turtle Dove, a quality assurance assessment solution, which really leverages Power Platform pipelines. Try to say that 3 times fast. And it actually emulates the COE toolkit, where you can actually deploy your code through the full application lifecycle management and do quality assurance assessments. We also have Power Happening by Wilmer and Benden Blanken, which is awesome. There you go. And with a cool drag and drop feature, which I love, and that's the Scott Giro drag and drop control, I believe. And we have an updated name pronunciation recorder by Lindsay Shelton, We had some issues when we first published the sample. I apologize to everyone, but it should be up to date now. You should be able to see the awesome sample. You're always welcome to contribute at aka.ms/powerplatform-samples. Back to you, David.
Awesome. Thanks, Hugo.
Let's go.
Let's go. Dut, dut, dut. All right. It's time for picture time with Vesa. He's back.
Excellent. Yeah, sorry for that. So
Yes, he's back. That's all right. I love it.
Yep. Yeah. Here we go. Jumping between the calls, but it's the time zone challenges we have this week. So let me jump to a different. I think I choose the auditorium. It looks a bit more fancier. Stretching. Getting ready, everybody.
Calisthenics.
Yes, recording. 50 seats in the room. Let's wait for a while. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Few more seats, and we put the recording on. So I think
anybody who just joined is like, what is going on?
Exactly. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. Really great picture out of that as well. Thanks, Will Crap a GIF animation out of that and sharing that in the social media. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Vesa. Okay, well, it is that time for demo time with our fantastic presenters of the day. So we're going to start off with Matt, and he's going to talk about harnessing the power of OpenAI inside Power Virtual Agents, or PVA, because we love our acronyms. Take it away, Matt.
All right, thank you very much, David, and good morning to everyone. Excited to show you some cool use cases with PVA and OpenAI. So let's jump into it. But first, let me give you just a little bit of background on myself. So I am a geek at heart, and so I actually got my degree in computer graphics, have been working in the IT world my whole life, and actually was really heavily embedded into SharePoint, got into that in 2008, actually was, speaking at SharePoint Saturdays, doing all that lovely stuff, started working with SharePoint with Moss 2007. And then I got into consulting and ultimately got further away from the code and started doing more with managing the team. And I made a change late last year to actually get back in the game, get hands-on with keys. And so I'm back to building out solutions. And my current role is Intelligent Experiences team lead at Takeda, and a big part of that is actually doing a lot with AI and Power Virtual Agents. So that is part of the reason why I'm here. So what we're going to look at, and we're going to demo actually quite a bit this morning. I haven't changed this yesterday just because so much is happening right now in the AI space and with ChatGPT, and new things keep coming out almost on a daily basis. So we're going to look at some of the key things in Power Virtual Agents and talk about how that works. We're going to talk a little bit about Power Automate. We'll explore what those solutions look like as far as how we're able to get that data from the OpenAI APIs. And then we'll talk specifically about those APIs as well. And I've got references to all that information at the end. But I want to spend most of the time really demoing and showing you guys what's going on. So give me 1 second and I will switch over. All right. So I've got a couple bots, and we're going to look at a first scenario here of essentially looking at OpenAI, and what we're going to be doing here is just essentially being able to do two things, either having a single chat, single question or query, or creating images. And so on this particular bot, I can actually chat if I want to, or I can just ask a question. So I'm going to say, who was the 17th president of the USA? All right, and so get back a response here. So this is pretty cool. I'll show you the conversation, I think, which is a lot more powerful, but we can get a little bit spiffier if we want to. We could say, give me a list of Michael Jordan's shoes in the following format. Say year, number, sold, year, and then let's go ahead and actually say the shoe. And one of the things that we're doing is that you'll see that we're bringing back this as an adaptive card. And so we're repeating basically to the end user what they asked, and then we're putting that in the response. Part of the reason for doing that is because the response coming from the OpenAI APIs actually looks quite a bit better when it's put into an adaptive card as opposed to just outputting it directly. That actually changes in the newer API, which again, I'll show you. So we've got this list here, and we could look and see the Air Jordan 1 is most popular and pretty consistent. I've asked this question to the bot quite a bit. Okay, so now let's switch to images really quickly, and let's go ahead and look for up close photo of a Shih Tzu sitting on a quilt with soft lighting in the background. Which is pretty much what I think everyone is searching for these days. Now, in this particular example, we're choosing to get back 4 different images. And so that's something that, again, when we dig into the code, we'll be able to see how we can change that. But these are going to come back just stacked up here. And so take a look at this. All right. And so Shih Tzu's on a quilt. And then let's do one more. Fuzzy orange monster sitting at a desk, the laptop as an oil painting. So what's coming back to with these images is they're actually URLs that are going to expire in 1 hour. And so actually at Takeda, we're doing something unique where we're actually pushing them into our own Azure Blob Storage, but that's something to keep in mind because when I would come back and revisit this chat in the future, eventually these images are going to disappear because that time's going to be met. So there's our orange tree monster, and I actually have it too set up so that if we want to, we can click on that, and then that's going to load the full-sized image. So, all right, so that's images, that's simple text. Let's just kill that. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to show you is, I think, a lot more interesting. And so I have developed for this demo a bot that's all about PnP. It's about to teach people PnP. So I just reset the conversation. So I'm going to tell the bot hi. All right. And so we're talking now to Peter McProgrammer, and he likes to tell dad jokes. And so he can't resist that. But he's all about PnP and only PnP. And so let's just go ahead and ask him a question that's not related to PnP and see if he's able to help us. Okay, so yeah, he does not want to help, right? Because again, he scoped PnP and PnP only, so that sounds good. So we're gonna have him help us write a PowerShell script. So write a PowerShell script with PnP PowerShell that reads title and email from a CSV and loads record into SharePoint. Now, this is using ChatGPT's 3.5 Turbo, and we're actually pushing against the Azure OpenAI. So this is something, it's similar API if you're using it directly in OpenAPI. We'll look again at this, how this works. We'll dig in more. But what's happening that's really, really cool is that the responses with code are a lot better now. So we get to actually see some sort of format to it, and it's a lot easier to read. So we've got this script, right, where we're reading in, we're putting it to a site, CSV, uploading title and email, and that looks good. But let's say that I realized I wanted to make a change because I might want more than title. Actually, so let's say, actually, let's make it read the columns dynamically from the CSV. Okay, so now it's actually come back to me, and it's actually grabbing those columns from the CSV, and then it's now looping through that, and it's going to do that. And then I want to wrap it up and say, wrap it up by making this a commandlet, please. So again, the real power of this is the fact that it's conversation, right? I don't have to remember, I don't have to retype everything that we've talked about, and the context is really there, which just takes it to another level as opposed to the first bot that I showed you, which is good for just single queries. But this, now we're actually getting there. What's really cool here is that not only has it done what I asked, but it's actually also given me sort of an example of how I could call that. So that's pretty cool. And then one last thing here, I can say here, show me a list of top SharePoint list formatting contributors. Because again, this bot's all about PnP. Okay, so let's see some example list formatting. Now, one of the things that's interesting about the fact that the data that's actually captured, right, with ChatGPT is that because it's a few years old, some of the links that'll come back aren't necessarily going to still work today. So that is one thing to keep in mind, in that they're not always going to be relevant anymore. Okay, but it's given us some example code, so that looks good. So now we'll go ahead and put this away, and let's jump in and look at this. So I'm going to actually jump back really quickly to the first bot that I showed you, and this is all about essentially capturing a fallback topic. We are doing a conversation starter here so that we're saying, hey there, feel free to start typing. we're using something called quick replies. This is the unified canvas preview. So you could do everything that I am showing you with Bot Composer, but it's a lot easier to do in unified canvas, which hopefully will be GA here in a few months. And so wanted to kind of show out that capability, which is really, really cool and really blends well those two interfaces. So we can chat, we can create images. What we're actually doing here is issuing commands. These are triggers that are going to trigger other topics. And what I want to show you really quickly here, we're not going to make any changes. If we go over to system and we go to the fallback, then here we're actually looking at what's happening. So a topic is not going to be triggered because we have almost no topics that are looking or listening for anything particular. So it's an unknown intent. We're going to grab what they put in as our prompt, and then we're going to actually send that to a flow. And again, if we want to go in and look at some of these flows, for this particular one, we're looking at completion. So it comes in as the prompt, and then we're initializing a completion. We're actually putting something about not being able to get a response, because if an error happens, then we have an initial value there. And then as far as the try goes, we're grabbing our API key from Azure Key Vault, and then we're doing this request. And again, the actual API information is in the presentation that I'll share afterwards, but we're sending the prompt, we're saying DaVinci 3, and we're giving it max token 24.8. There's a lot more you can do with that. You could potentially build in interfaces, even with adaptive cards inside the PVA bot, so that you could let the user decide, such as the temperature, right? How crazy it can get on responses and whatnot. So that's what that looks like. And then really quickly, we're going to jump back over here to let's create images, show you that. So this one in particular, because we are looking at a trigger, we want to get them into this actual flow. And so when they say let's create images, it's going to ask them to describe an image. It's also going to give them the quick reply to switch to chat. Just gives us like sort of a quick menu to go back if we don't actually want to be in the image UI. And so we're going to pass the image text, and then we're going to output. And this is another really cool part of the unified canvas. We can do an adaptive card directly here. So if I click on this and expand it, I've actually got a formula in here. And so what you'll see is I'm getting back the actual raw response from OpenAI. I'm taking that as it is, parsing the JSON, and then looking at the data property. And that is going to just be an array of URLs. And so I'm going to loop through all of those, and I'm creating an image type. I'm going to pass the URL of the records URL as text, size stretch. So that's why we saw those nice big images in Teams. And then I'm actually adding that select action onto it so that the open URL will allow me to click on the link and then open up a new bot. So that's what the images look like. And then to go back over here to again, I think what the more exciting one is the GPT. And so let's jump back over to this bot and look at it. So this is 100% fallback. There is nothing else in this bot besides this value, and be posting this as an example. But at this point, we really don't want any of the topics to trigger here. If we needed something, we could, but it's going to handle everything. So we're actually setting a variable really quick. So user typed in something, it's the activities text. We're really quickly seeing if our full conversation and the key to that context of being able to say, write me a script, change the script, etc., is we're actually having to pass it back to the bot. And so that's how it's able to remember and retain. It's not going to do that on its own. But if it's blank, we're setting a value here, and that value, just really quickly, is going to be chat markup language. This is where I mentioned it's a little bit different with OpenAI. OpenAI does essentially an array of values, and this is really more string format. But we're basically saying a system prompt. We're giving it a personality. It's where we're talking about this is what you do, this is what you respond with when somebody asks for something that's not part of it, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's basically waiting for the user query here. And so that starts the conversation. User enters something. We actually take that and the full conversation, we pass it into a flow. And that particular flow is here. And then again, we're going to call the actual API. And so this is, again, OpenAI, Azure OpenAI for us over here at Takeda. And so doing temperature 0, passing in just that specific prompt, actually and concatenated with the full value. And we just hover over that, the full value, and then the particular question that was asked. And then we're going to get back the response from that. And at that point, that is going to be the choices array, which is going to always be the first item in that array, and it's the text, and then we send it back. Now what happens after we send it back is we're going to send out the response, not as an adaptive card like the other one, but just the response. That's where we're getting those really nice looking code examples, etc. And then we take that variable and we want to set it to what it was already, and then we want to append to it. And again, if I get in here and I can go into the formula, so I'm concatenating the full conversation. I'm actually putting in then what the user just asked, ending that IM, starting it. I'm putting the assistance point and then putting their response in, and then ending that, starting that. And then again, we're going to wait for another user query. So that just goes on and on and on. And what's again happening is every time I ask a question, fallback's hitting, and then it's going from there. So that is what that looks like, and that is it in a nutshell. And again, back to the actual references. If you want to learn more about the OpenAI APIs and the Azure one as well, those are there. The Unified Canvas, which again, I'm a huge fan of. Always love the Adaptive Card Designer. And finally, you can find my blog there, mattjimison.com, or look me up on Twitter. So thank you very much.
Matt, really cool stuff. I appreciate you diving into that variety of ways in which you can implement that, how it works in all the different capacities, the way that you can plug it into Azure OpenAI and all this stuff. So really great job. Thank you so much. All right, the time has come. Hugo Bernier. He's finishing his typing right now, just wrapping it up.
That's right.
Take it away.
Finishing my demo. As I'm getting ready, I just want to say that's a tough demo to follow. I remember the first time that I actually presented AI to an audience, and the audience was convinced that I had a bunch of people in the server room typing furiously. So it's amazing to see how far we've come along. All right, well, let's get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Hugo Bernier. I am a Principal Program Manager for the Dynamics 365 and Power Platform Community Success Team. And today, I'm going to show you how Power Pages makes it easy for you to build a website that follows your organization's branding guidelines. And branding guidelines are important because if you think about it, what we're saying with Power Platform and Power Pages is that we're empowering people to build websites that can extend the reach of your Power Platform infrastructure, your Dataverse, and your Power Automate and Power Virtual Agent. Extend that to an external audience. It could be, through a public website, but it could be your employees, but it could also be your customers, your partners, your constituents. And so branding is very important. We want to make sure that we're following the corporate guidelines here. And so Power Pages is designed to allow makers, pro developers, and IT administrators to work together to make this happen, right? Because we always want to make sure that we do everything that we're doing in a secure way. We don't want rogue people creating websites that expose your data out there. But today what we're going to do is we're going to focus on a new feature that makes it really easy for you to manage your site header and your navigation style to comply with your branding guidelines. And how the header style and the layout can be also maintained separately from your page content so that, again, your makers can focus on really creating the content they need while someone else can focus on the consistency and the branding. With that in mind, let's move forward. So let's start with a new site. And so to do that, we go to make.powerpages.microsoft.com. And once you get there, you can go to create a site. So right here. So you can create a site, and then what you do when you select that is it'll prompt you to select a site template. Now we're always adding cool new site templates, so feel free to explore through the various templates and pick the one that really matches your desired layout and branding. Again, remember that you can always preview some pages, and you can always preview kind of the mobile view versus the desktop view. But I'm just going to show you a few of these templates here. And you'll notice that while they're very consistent, they also have minor variations to each one of them, right? And as we're going, we're going to continue adding new templates and new layouts. But you're really going to go through the templates that you want, that have the functionality you want, and you pick the one that is the closest. Now, I think I'll pick the site starter layer layout 4. So let's choose this template. And then it's asking you to give the site a name and a web address. We're not going to worry about that for today. We're just going to click on Done. And it's going to build our website. All right. Now, once the website is created, I can go to Edit. And I am Canadian, and so my fictitious company is going to be a Canoe of the Month club. And I want to allow my subscribers to manage their subscriptions and set their preferences for canoe types and things like that. So let's change the title a little bit. So here, again, I'm just going to the page, and I'm editing the header. So I'll just say, welcome to the weekend. And then I am not a marketing genius, so I'm just going to write something really boring here, like relax in a nice canoe every weekend. But this is just to show you again that we can simply edit pages, the content of every pages. And here, let's just change the button here to make it a call to action. We're going to say register. Actually, I say register now. And then click on link to a page. I'm going to pick just a page right now that let's just pick some page 1. But later we'll come back and customize this. All right, and I don't really want this section here, so like any other areas of Power Pages, I can just edit the sections, remove the sections, and so on. Okay, so let's move on to the next step here. So I could do a lot more here with editing the pages, but really the focus of today is this section here, the header. And so what we want to do is we want to comply with our branding guidelines or corporate branding guidelines. And to do that, the first thing we're going to go to the styling workspace right here. And while we're in the styling workspace, you can see that I have a whole bunch of choices that are available to me. I can pick and I can preview the color schemes here. We have some crazy colors. None of them really match really what I wanted. So I'm going to go back to the original style that I had selected. And I'm going to focus on that for the rest of the demo. Now, in the styling workspace, I have something called brand colors. And the brand colors are absolutely the corporate brand colors that you want to follow, right? There's also a more colors section that allows you to, if I can highlight that, there you go, more colors section. And it allows you to really add more corporate colors, but also complementary colors that you'll use on your site. And I always like to start with the most prominent color, the most prominent brand color in my organization. So I'll do that right here. I'll usually also set kind of the page background color, but my branding guidelines say that my background should be white and the color is already white. So then what I'll continue to do is I'll continue putting the brand colors that I want right here. And you can see here, I'm just copying and pasting the hex decimal value, but I could also, if I wanted to, here, let's just click on that. I could just kind of use the color wheel and just change all these values, the RGB, the alpha. But again, I'm trying to be a good corporate citizen. I'm trying to stick to the corporate guidelines, so I'm going to copy and paste all the colors. Now, as fascinating as it might be to watch me enter all the colors one by one, through the magic of demos, I'm going to speed up this, and I'm just going to enter all the other colors that I want to use. Now, the cool thing about that is, now that I've defined my brand colors, I can use these colors throughout my site, including in my site header. Let's show you how we do that. At first, we need to save, because one of the things here that we're trying to do is to allow you to explore the colors without having to worry about messing up your site. But once you're happy with your colors, you can actually click save, and it'll save that, and you'll be able to actually preview that later. All right, so now let's go back to the page workspace and to look at this header. And you'll see the header is actually grayed out because we're trying to tell you here, this is a separate part of the page, and we don't want you to edit it by accident. We have an edit site header button right here so that you can purposely go edit your site header. And the first thing that you can do here is edit your site title. I'm not a very original person, so I decided to pick a site called Canadu, which is Canada and Canoe and Xanadu, I guess. And then I can enable, disable, showing the site logo. But what I want to do here is I'm going to upload an image for my site logo. So let's do that. And I'll just pick a site image that I had done just before this demo. And once the site is uploaded, there you go. And I should probably also put alternate text because we want our site to be accessible. Normally here, I think the accessible guidelines would be to talk about the company logo, but I'm just describing here that this is a canoe. All right, so that was for the title and the brand, but I also want to go use the colors that I've defined earlier. So this is where the styling tab in the edit site header dialog comes in. So here you can see that I have the title, which is the site name. I've got the navigation, I've got the background. And if I change the header background here, you see it reflects right away. I probably don't want it to be white. I just want it to be the original color that I had set. But I could also go in and change the title, and we want the title to be actually white on that dark background. I can also change the navigation. And navigation, the corporate guidelines say that it should be this gray color. Now I could actually change things like I want on different underline color, I want different font size, or I want a different font. By law, you're not allowed to use Comic Sans because it's just horrible, but you can use pretty much any other fonts that you want. And we'll talk later about custom fonts as well. All right, and I could also, of course, change the font for the main site title and things like that. Now, that's cool. I've now customized the header. You know, I've put it the logo, I've put it my company name. But the other thing that I can do is I can actually go test my layout. And the reason why this is useful is because if I've made customizations to my header, I want to be able to verify that it works that is responsive, that it works on a mobile device without having to save, preview, use an emulator and things like that. But once I've tested that, I can go reset and go back to 100% size so I can see the site and continue editing the site. Now, I just talked about using custom headers, right, and customizing the header. But the one thing that you'll notice is on the corner here, I have the ability to edit the code right here. Now, the cool thing about that is that if I select that, I'll actually be able to open the site or the site header in Visual Studio Code directly from the web interface. So this is actually a web-based version of Visual Studio Code. And what it does is it downloads the header HTML. And let me zoom that a little bit here. There you go. And you'll notice that this is a standard. Here, let me zoom in and highlight this. This is a standard Bootstrap style, right? So navbar inverse, static top. And if you're familiar with Bootstrap, you can absolutely customize these styles here to suit your own needs. But the other thing that you'll notice is that there's some HTML in here, right? But there's also some really weird looking HTML. Something that starts with the squiggly brackets or the left brackets and right brackets. And this is something called Liquid. And Liquid is a language that allows you to actually create server-side functionality to do things like loops, conditional formatting, using variables and things like that. In fact, let me show you, if I search here on my code for the word snippet, this is one of the, or snippets, this is one of the functions that's available in Liquid that allows you to go get some reusable content snippets and insert them into your code. And they'll do that dynamically as it renders the page. So you don't have to go, for example, go replace the name of the company in every single page. You can just use a reusable snippet. You see on this page right now, in this header, there's 13 instances of snippets that are being used. But I've got time. Let me show you some behind-the-scenes magic here. Let's go back to the Design Studio. Now it's actually prompting me to synchronize my code. I didn't change the code, so I just hit cancel. But here I'll go to Portal Management. And in Portal Management, this is the behind the scenes, the engine that feeds Power Pages. I'm going to go to a section called Content Snippets. And Content Snippets is, again, all these reusable bits that we've talked about before. Now, I have a lot of sites in my environment, so I'm just going to filter that by the site that I was just showing you. And you'll notice that right there, I've got my site name, that is Canadu, and I've got, what else did I change? I got my logo here. You'll see above that, I've got my alt text and so on and so forth. This is where all this information gets stored. And the cool thing about that is if I want to refer to the site name or the company name throughout my content, I can actually just do that by just referring to this snippet. And these snippets, you can use them for a lot of other things. Like, for example, my copyright notice, some reusable text that I want in every single page. Instead of, again, retyping, no results found in every single search result, I can actually just do that centrally in one place. And the cool thing about that, you'll notice that the content snippet has a language associated to it. So if I created multilingual content in my site and I enabled multiple languages, I can go translate the snippets right here, and it'll automatically pick the right content variations or language variations for me on the site. Here's another example of a snippet. If I go to the mobile header actually, because all snippets can contain either text or HTML and liquid. So here, actually, this is a hyperlink that I've created that actually goes and determines whether I have a logo and all that stuff, and it refers to other content snippets like the company name. All right, so now that I've showed you the behind-the-scenes magic, let's go back here and let's just wrap this up here. So I have a header that meets my corporate branding standards, right, with the colors, logo, and company name. And I have a site that, soon enough I'll be able to start editing and use my corporate colors and have my content. But it's not quite the most exciting site yet. So let me go to edit the hero section here. Let me add an image, and let me put something that's a bit more canoe or relaxing, right? And now here, like every site, as I'm building Power Pages, I can hit preview. I can click on go to the desktop, and I get to preview the site. And this is actually a real site. This is live, and if you actually scan the QR code before I switch pages, you would actually see exactly what I see. Now, there's a lot of work left for me to do, right? But the important thing here is that I showed how you can build a Power Pages site that complies with your branding guidelines by using the styling workspace and the site header editor. We barely scratched the surface, honestly, with what you can do with Power Pages. We could have changed the layout completely. We didn't register any custom fonts. We barely edited the pages and the site structure. But we could have also connected to Dataverse, right? We could have used Power Automate, Power BI, Power Virtual Agent. We could have extended the data to show through Power Pages by using virtual tables. For example, if I wanted to show items from a SharePoint list or from a SQL Server database behind the scenes. And we also would have to set up the authentication and permissions, but that's all for another day, right? We're just getting started. I can't wait to see how you're going to use Power Pages to create more beautiful, branded, and secure sites using Power Pages. And thank you for your time. And with that, I got some QR codes for you and some links. I will paste the links in the chat, but these are really the two articles that I use to talk about this demo.
All right, everybody. Well, congratulations to Hugo Bernier. This is his 4th Power Pages demo in the category of Power Platform. So we want to congratulate him and just ask him to please leave the stage. All right. Excellent job, everybody. Let's get cracking on sharing this screen and wrap this call up. Okay, well, again, thank you to our fantastic community contributors today and presenters, Matt and Hugo. Excellent information, and we really appreciate you taking the time out to share it with us. Timing was perfect for the both of you, so thank you for being conscious of that as well. Now, you may want to talk more with Matt and Hugo about these topics, and we got you covered. Community Calls Conversations is a newer program that we have set up. These are dedicated conversation spaces on the Power Platform forums. So each thread has a dedicated spot for each of these individual demos. And to get to them, all you need to do is clickety-click your camera or type in those AKAs into the chat or into your browser. Don't put them in the chat. I'll put them in the chat. Put them into your browser, and you can access and continue to collaborate with Matt and Hugo. Operators are standing by, so definitely go let them know that you got questions, you want to collaborate, or even just tell them they did a good job. Positive reinforcement and congratulations and commendation is always welcome, and we should be doing more of that. All right, well, the recording of this call will be available in 24 hours on the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community YouTube channel. You can get there by going to ak.ms/community/videos. You will likely see that it's ready for download in the chat. You won't be able to download it, so don't try. It'll just end up in frustration and tears But if you subscribe to all of the Power Platform and Microsoft 365 community YouTube channels, you will get an alert as soon as it is available, and we promise you will not be sorry. So go there, subscribe to all the YouTube channels, and we will make sure that you're kept up to date. You can also follow us on Twitter for the latest updates at M365PNP, or you can check out the LinkedIn group on aka.ms/community/li. The next M365 and Power Platform biweekly call 2 weeks from today. We should be back to 7 a.m. for those in the States. Everything should be done across the world in daylight savings times by then. So definitely we look forward to seeing you all on the 30th. The next VV Connection SharePoint Framework call, March 23rd, 7 a.m. next week. We'll have to double check that. I'm not sure if that's going to be back to normal. But if you download the invite, it will automatically keep you up to date and will reflect on your calendar accurately. You can see all the community calls at ak.ms/community/calls. Thank you, everybody, for attending today. Fantastic conversation, chat, collaboration. You are the best part of this community, so we appreciate all you're doing. Have a wonderful rest of your week and a great weekend.
Bye-bye.